Okay, let's unpack this. When most people hear the word Vastu Shastra, the mental image is often very specific. Where to put the couch or which corner of the house is lucky for wealth.
Right. It's been incredibly simplified.
To the point of being dismissed, really, as just some kind of decorative superstition.
Yeah. And that surface level understanding is, well, it's a huge missed opportunity, especially when we look at the source material you've provided.
Exactly.
It reveals a scope that is it's massive, a comprehensive multidimensional system that, intertwines complex math, advanced astronomy, environmental science,
And architectural engineering. So our mission this deep dive is to get past those common misconceptions. We're here to understand Vastu Shastra as a serious ancient science, something rooted in precise calculation and holistic environmental awareness.
Yes.
We need to dissect its historical foundations, its deep Vedic lineage, and crucially, those surprising 8 core components, or Angas.
And I think we have to start with the foundational meaning. The core concept is vastu. It just means a dwelling, or a place where a living being, whether that's a human, an animal, or even a deity in a temple, can reside safely, in balance, and most importantly, peacefully.
So the whole discipline is fundamentally about optimizing the environment for a successful life.
That's it.
And the sources immediately challenge the modern idea that Vastu is only about residential homes, the Griha.
Oh, completely. The sheer breadth of structures the system covers is staggering.
It really is.
It just speaks to the ambition of the original builders. Vastu was never just, a checklist for a house layout.
So what else are we talking about?
The texts list specific applications that cover the whole landscape of a society. So you have the planning of temples, devalaya, extensive water management, and storage structures. So wells, dams, lakes.
Wow.
And then the intricate layout for entire villages and large cities, or nagar. And of course, absolutely critical structures like massive royal palaces and military forts.
So this is far more than an individual blueprint. It's more like a manual for the physical structure of an entire civilization.
Exactly. It encompasses resource management, defense, commerce, sacred spaces, everything.
That's a powerful insight into its historical importance.
It is. And that depth, it implies significant antiquity. The sources describe Vastu Shastra as being as old as human culture itself.
And its principles are rooted deeply across the Vedas, the Vedangas, the Puranas.
And the Agama Granthas.
That anchors it in one of the world's most ancient knowledge traditions.
Yeah.
But what's the precise, the formal link within the Vedic structure?
The connection is layered. So first, you have Jyotish, which is both astrology and astronomy. That's one of the 6 auxiliary disciplines, the Vedangas. Vastu Shastra is said to have developed, in part, from the directional and celestial knowledge in Jyotish.
Okay, so that's one link.
But the most foundational link is the Upaveda of the Atharva Veda.
Which is specifically called as the Sthapatya Veda. The texts call it the Mululadhar, the original basis.
Correct. When scholars like Varhamihira discuss Vastu, they treat it in Jyotish as sister disciplines. They're just inseparable in their application.
So if the Sthapatya Veda is the foundational text, how do the sources define it? What kind of content is in this ancient construction science, this Bankam Shastra?
It's exactly what the name implies, the complete construction science. It provides specific, systematic rules for every conceivable structure.
From a simple house to a huge city project.
Everything. Villages, cities, royal palaces, or Raj Prasad, temples, Dev Prasad, and all that detailed hydrological engineering for water structures. The Jal Rakna. If it was built, the Sthapatya Veda had rules for it.
When you describe it like that as this complete, unified engineering science, it raises a question. How did one field manage to contain all that knowledge? I mean, that list covers everything from city planning to water dynamics.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
This is where we shift to the structural complexity. According to the sources, specifically the Samarangana Sutradhara, Vastu Shastra isn't one subject, it's a composite science.
This is where the deep dive truly begins, because understanding the structure just proves the complexity. The Samarangana Sutradhara clearly outlines that Vastu Shastra is composed of 8 specific limbs, or Angas.
And these aren't just like supplementary topics.
No. They are 8 separate disciplines that have to be mastered and integrated for any project to succeed.
Okay, let's walk through those 8 Angas, because the integration here is the biggest revelation. It's like the synthesis of the ancient world.
We can group them logically. First, you have the purely calculative and directional elements.
The nuts and bolts.
Right. That's Ganita, which is fundamental mathematics, and Sarajnana, which is the crucial measurement and direction knowledge, or Disha. These are the non-negotiable tools for precision.
Makes perfect sense for engineering. You need math, and you need a system of measurement.
Precisely. Then we link that precision to the cosmos and the spirit of the project. So we have Jyotish astronomy and astrology, and Shilpa, which is the actual physical art and construction.
So that pairing links the celestial timing to the physical act of building.
Exactly.
Now we get to the three angas that really set the system apart from modern architecture. Let's start with Chanda. This is prosody and metrics. Why does the rhythm of poetry matter when you're building a stone palace?
This is a beautiful insight into their holistic view of structure. Chanda is about rhythm, proportion, harmonious sequence.
Okay.
In architecture, it dictates the use of specific proportional modules ratios that are applied again and again throughout the building. This ensured not just visual harmony, but structural integrity.
So it's not just about looking good.
Not at all. The ancient builders believed that just as rhythmic verse creates resonance in poetry, rhythmic proportions create stability and positive resonance in stone. It's the idea of poetry in stone.
That is the aha moment.
Yeah.
It shifts the discussion from simple aesthetics to structural harmonics.
Exactly.
If the building's proportions are off rhythm, it's structurally jarring.
That's the idea. Then you have yantra karma, the seventh limb, mechanical works in engineering. This is where the practical application of Ganita and Sarajana came in.
So it wasn't enough to just design it.
It wasn't enough to design it. You had to know how to actually build it efficiently.
What kind of ancient engineering are we talking about here? I mean, were they dealing with concepts like stress distribution?
Absolutely. Yantra karma was the discipline for designing and using equipment for large-scale construction. Things like cranes, pulley systems, ways to move monumental stones.
Wow.
But it also covered hydraulics for those Jarakna structures we mentioned. It was the ancient discipline of materials science and structural mechanics.
So determining load-bearing capacity, making sure materials would last, all based on mathematical prediction.
Correct.
Okay, now for the most abstract one. The first anga, Samudrika. This is the science of body signs and characteristics. How mechanically does the science of human traits connect to architecture?
The sources suggest two primary mechanisms. First, it was used in selecting the Sthapati, the master architect or artisan. The belief was that the moral and physical characteristics determined by Samudrika were prerequisites for someone entrusted with creating a peaceful, powerful structure. A person of flawed character, it was thought, could not impart positive qualities to the building.
So it's not about the building itself, but the selection criteria for the people who build it.
That's the management component. But the second application is anthropological. It provided a system of anthropometry.
Measuring human scale.
Exactly, measuring human scale and proportion. The source texts often emphasize that structures, especially homes, must be measured relative to the human body for comfort and for optimal living space. Samudrika provided the framework for defining those ideal human scale units.
That is an incredibly comprehensive framework. You're synthesizing math, environment, engineering, aesthetics, timing, even personnel management. So the final anga, Vidya Prakya, that's just the operational manual.
Yes. It covers the procedures and processes, the step-by-step sequencing, regulatory requirements, the rituals, basically the whole construction life cycle, from groundbreaking to housewarming.
If we connect all this to the bigger picture, it's undeniable that Vastu Shastra is a multi-dimensional science, a Bhavayami Vijayan.
It is.
It requires proficiency in over half a dozen fields. The complexity alone is a massive counter-argument to the idea that this is just guesswork.
It's a system built entirely on precise coordination. And two of the most critical elements that govern success or failure within this massive system are time, or kal, and direction, Disha.
If you miscalculate either one, the whole system fails.
The whole coordinated system fails.
Yes. Let's start with time, kal, because this is where the Jyotish limb directly impacts the construction schedule. It moves the discipline from static building into dynamic process management.
The Vishwakarma Vastu Shastra lays out a very strict principle. You must examine the proper kal, the auspicious time, or muhurta, before starting any work.
And the text says explicitly that time itself dictates the outcome.
Yes, whether it will be auspicious or inauspicious.
But beyond the spiritual, what was the practical necessity of timing? The texts say poor timing leads to financial loss or obstacles. What was the mechanism linking a bad Muhurta to a physical breakdown?
Well, it was partly logistical and partly environmental. These projects were huge, coordinating hundreds of workers, massive amounts of material.
Sure.
A wrong time often coincided with poor seasonal conditions for materials like timber or masonry, or unstable astrological configurations that they believed predicted labor conflicts or unexpected weather events.
So ignoring the Muhurta was essentially ignoring predictive scheduling based on astronomical and meteorological observations.
It was, and the sources are very concrete about when timing is crucial. It's not just the initial groundbreaking. No,
Okay.
the list is rigorous. Timing is critical for the actual construction of houses or temples, for erecting key structural elements like pillars, the exact moment of fixing the main door.
The housewarming ceremony, the Gruberdesh.
That too, and building water storage structures, or even placing the capstones on large features like a temple gateway, the gopuram.
It's just common sense. If you lay a foundation in a predicted monsoon, you're going to have financial loss. The text just codified this predictive awareness,
That's a great way to put it.
which brings us to direction, or Disha. How is direction determined in ancient Vastu? It must have been highly precise to avoid the severe consequences they talk about.
Accuracy of direction was paramount, and it relied heavily on rigorous astronomical observation. The whole system of Disha relies on the fixed point of the North Star, the Driftara, as the anchor.
The anchor for stable direction. And how did they translate that celestial anchor into a fixed line on the ground, especially for laying out something as big as a city?
They used a tool called the Shenku,
Shenku.
which is essentially a vertically placed measuring stick. The technique involved observing the shadow cast by the Shenku through the day. By marking the exact endpoints of the shadow at sunrise and sunset, and drawing a line between those 2 points.
They could accurately determine the true east-west axis. That's a verifiable geometric principle.
Yes, using the sun's shadow to establish a perfect cardinal direction grid.
And that perfect axis was then used to lay out the foundation and orient the entire structure.
Or the entire city grid. And this technique grounds Disha firmly in observational science, which leads the sources to draw that fascinating connection. The modern compass fundamentally operates on the same principle of finding a stable, consistent directional reference.
Given that level of precision, the consequences of getting the direction wrong must have been severe in the builder's mind. What does the Brihadvastumala say happens if direction is confused, if the structure is digmute?
This is where we understand the perceived gravity. The texts state that for major structures, temples, houses, doors, or especially sacrificial altars, the Yajnakunda, if directions are incorrect or confused,
Yes,
the consequences can lead up to Kulanasha.
the destruction of the entire lineage. That suggests these calculations were viewed not as minor architectural details,
Not at all.
but as existential requirements for the community.
They were viewed as critical structural necessities. A foundational error in alignment was believed to destabilize the entire place, leading to disastrous outcomes, both physical and psychological.
So what does this all mean when we put the pieces back together for you, our listener?
The conclusion is powerful. Vastu Shastra is a profound and complex system. It's a calculated blend of science, Jyotish, mathematics, and environmental coordination.
A systematic framework.
It is an integrated framework for understanding the cause and effect between aligning a physical structure with its environmental and celestial context. It's about careful coordination
The right place, the right time, and the right direction.
to achieve optimal outcomes.
And I really appreciate that final note the source material emphasizes. It counters the idea that this system was designed to spread fear.
Right.
It explicitly describes Vastu Shastra as a guide for making the right decisions. It's a framework for systematic alignment, not a mandate for arbitrary ritual.
It pushes you, the learner, to treat your environment as a complex system that requires mastery and precision, not guesswork.
And that coordination provides a fascinating final thought for you to mull over. We've seen that mathematical and directional error-confused calculation was cited as having severe consequences, demanding Kulanasha-level attention. The source material ends by emphasizing the absolute need for coordination of proper desh, place, kal, time, and disha, direction.
A whole system in 3 words.
Exactly. So considering that mandate for holistic coordination, what practical implications does integrating geography, astronomy, and precise timing have for modern city planning or large construction projects today? The underlying principles of the Earth's movement and its impact haven't changed. That's a concept worth exploring further on your own.